Sayadaw explained that Panya, knowledge, discerns clearly, distinctly the unique characteristics and common characteristics of Nama Rupa. Each and every materiality has their own characteristic, and each and every Nama also has its own unique characteristic. When one discerns mind and matter, knowledge starts to develop. Discerning mind and matter, the knowledge is called Dhamma Vavatthana, or it can also be called Nama Rupa Parijeda. Knowledge discerning mind and matter. And one also comes to know Nama and Rupa distinctly, how these Nama Rupa are arising as cause and effect. There are times when Nama is the cause and the Rupa the effect. And there are times where Rupa is the cause, Nama is the effect. And there are times when Rupa is the cause and the Rupa the effect. So in this way, these Nama Rupa are arising as cause and effect. As in Paticca Samuppada. By being mindful of the presently arising object, one develops Vipassana Jhana. Jhana means concentrating, contemplating, concentratedly, closely on the object. As one continues practice, one comes to know unique individual characteristics of Nama Rupa. And one also comes to see the cause and effect, and also the arising and passing away of these Nama Rupa. Nama Rupa does not stay the same after arising, but it passes away. It just is present for a moment. It arises and passes away. So the presence of these Nama Rupa are between the 2 points of arising and passing away. Every Nama Rupa phenomena arise and pass away, and thus they are called anicca, impermanent. Hutva abhavato anicca, because they pass away after arising, they are called anicca, impermanent. The things that are impermanent are Khanda Panchaka, the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates are Nama and Rupa. Nama has the characteristic of knowing the object, inclining onto the object, knowing the object. And Rupa is called Rupa because it alters and changes. The mind goes on to objects. The mind may go on to objects that are near, or the mind may go to objects, which are the 5 aggregates, or the mind may go to distant objects, or the mind may go to very far objects. It is obvious in people who think a lot. One will see that the mind goes on to various objects. Rupa is not like that. Rupa can alter and change. And Sayadaw explains the characteristics, function, and manifestation of Nama. Nama has the characteristic Namana Lakhana, meaning it inclines and goes onto the object. So the mind inclines on the object that the person thinks of. It is the characteristic of Nama that it inclines and knows the object. Sambayoga rasa, the function of Nama is that it associates with the other Nama. So the Nama are called Sampayutta or Sampayoga with each other. The Nama are associates of each other, and it is the function of Nama. These Nama also stay in group. Just like a family stay together, in the same way, the Nama also stay in group with its associate mental factors. The manifestation is Avinebhoga Pachupattana. They stay together without parting. The Nama stay together, associating with each other without parting. So the manifestation of Nama is they arise together, not parting with each other. When the yogi is being mindful, one can discern either the characteristic, function, or manifestation of Nama. When one is being mindful, one will know that the mind goes on to various objects. Yogi may be noting rising, falling, and after some time, the mind goes on to other objects. Nama is two in category, which is Chitta, consciousness, and the other one is Cetasika, mental factors. Consciousness and mental factors are called Nama, and they are arising in a group together, just like family and friends live together. In the same way, the Nama arise together with its associating mental factors. They do not part from each other. When a wholesome mind arises, the wholesome mind arises together with the wholesome cetasika, wholesome mental state. And when akusala arises, when unwholesome mind arises, it arises together with the unwholesome mental state. Every consciousness associates with mental factors. So the least number of mental factors associating with the mind is 7. So consciousness associates with mental factors. The least number of mental factors is 7. By being mindful, one discerns the characteristic, function, and manifestation of Nama, and it is said that the yogi discerns Nama. Nama consists of two things, Citta, consciousness, and Cetasika, mental factors. Nama inclines onto the object. The mind inclines onto the object, and also the Cetasika, mental factors, incline onto the object. When one sees, hears, smells, tastes, touch, and know, 4 factors of Nama are present. Cognizing the object, knowing the object, cognizing the object, taking the object is Citta, consciousness. Consciousness associates with the mental factors. Phassa is the contact between the object and the mind arises in the base where consciousness is taking place, and phassa, contact, is obvious. When one comes into contact with pleasant objects, there is pleasant feeling. When one comes into contact with unpleasant objects, there is unpleasant feeling. When one comes into contact with neither pleasant nor unpleasant objects, there is neutral feeling. Pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling are called Vedana, feeling or sensation. In the beginning of the practice, pleasant feeling is obvious, unpleasant feeling is also obvious. What is not obvious is the neutral feeling. And among the mental factors, Jhana, volition, Sanya, perception, perceiving as either it is white or recognizing them as white or black. Perception is Sanya. And when these Nama arise, there is light faculty of Nama. And also there is Manasikara, attention, which applies so that the mind takes the object. For the yogi, the factors that are prominent are phassa, contact, vedana, feeling is also obvious to the yogi. Consciousness is also obvious to the yogi. Jhana, volition, is not obvious. These Nama are making up the 4 aggregate Nama Khanda. These Nama are categorized into the 4 Nama Khanda, 4 aggregates. So for yogis, the factors that are prominent, that are obvious are phassa, vedana, and jhana. These are called in one word as Nama. Rupa has the characteristic of Rupana, Lekhana. Rupa, the materiality, has the characteristic of altering, changing, It alters from good to bad. It also alters from bad to good. For example, in cold weather, the moisture in one's body becomes dry, and one has dry skin, and so on. And in hot weather, one sweats, and when one is bitten by a mosquito, the mosquito bite brings a bump on the skin. So these are the examples of rupa, materiality, altering, changing from good to bad, from bad to good. So the rupa, materiality, has the characteristic of altering and changing. Vikirana rasa, rupa has the function of dissipating into fragments or scattering. As the yogi is noting hard congealing objects, one notes it as hard, and one sees it dissipate into particles or scattering into particles and disappear. And also, when one is noting something that is very hard, one sees it as unpleasant, noting it as hard, yogi sees the hardness dissipate, pervade, and pass away. So the function of rupa is vikirana rasa, dissipating into fragments, scatter. When one is noting, for example, heat, the heat pervades and dissipates. So the materiality has the function of dissipating into fragment and scatter. Abhyagata Pachupattana, rupa has the manifestation of not cognizing the object, whereas nama cognizes and takes object, but rupa cannot cognize or take object. Rupa cannot cognize nama, and rupa cannot cognize rupa itself. So the manifestation of rupa is not cognizing the object. As the yogi is mindful, yogi also comes to discern rupa. Among nama and rupa, among mentality and materiality, rupa, materiality, is more obvious. Among the materiality, there are 4 great elements and derived materiality. Among them, the 4 great elements, Pඨavi, Apo, Tejo, and Vayu, earth element, water element, heat element, and wind element, air element, are more obvious than the other materiality. In one body, there are 20 in kind, which manifest as Pඨavi, earth element. When you feel the head hair, it is hard. When you feel the body hair, it is hard. Feeling the fingernails and toenails, it is hard. The teeth is also hard. So the hair, nails, and the teeth manifest in Pඨavi Dhatu. the hard kind of earth element. When you feel the sinews and the skin, you can feel softness. It is soft kind of Paṭhavi Dhatu. So in this way, Paṭhavi Dhatu, earth element, manifests as hardness, softness. Apo Dhatu, water element, manifests as flowing, cohesion, moisture, congealing. It manifests when one sweats or when tears come out or other liquids in one's body. Apo Dhatu, the water element, cannot be experienced itself, but one can experience it together with other elements. For example, one may experience hard congealing or stiff congealing or hot congealing. When one experiences hard congealing, hardness is the Paṭhavi Dhatu, congealing is the Apo Dhatu. So in this way, one can experience Apo Dhatu together with other elements. Apo Dhatu cannot be experienced itself. So one has to know Apo Dhatu together with the other elements. So there can be soft congealing object, there can be hard congealing object, wet congealing object, stiff congealing object, cold congealing object. In this way, one experiences Apo Dhatu together with the other element. So water cannot be, the water element is not tangible. When you put the hand into the water, one feels coolness or the heat, but one cannot touch the water, but one only feels the coldness or the heat. So in this way, Apo Dhatu is experienced together with the other elements, such as heat congealing object, cold congealing object. Heat is Tejo Dhatu and congealing is the Apo Dhatu. And at times one may one may feel the stiff congealing object, tense congealing object. Stiffness and tension is Vayu Dhatu, the air element, and congealing is the Apo Dhatu. So Paṭhavi Dhatu, the earth element, manifests as hardness, softness. It is obvious. Apo Dhatu manifests as flowing, cohesion, congealing, moisture. It is also obvious. The Tejo Dhatu manifests as heat or cold. It is also obvious. So these are the rupa, materiality. They alter and change. And rupa cannot cognize the object. Nama cognizes the object. When there is object to be known, the nama can cognize it. Because there is the object to be noted, the nama that notes the object arises, and knowledge arises. One discerns hardness, softness, heat, warmth, cold, stiffness, tension, movement, and so on. One does not have to look for the nature, but as one is mindful on the presently arising object, one automatically discerns the nature. and in order to discern, one should note at the moment the object arises. In order to discern, one should be mindful every time the object arises. One should be mindful every time one sees, every time one hears, every time one smells, every time one tastes, every time when one touches, every time when one knows, every time one bends, every time one stretches, and so on. So one should be mindful of every arising object. Just as there is flavor in the food, when one chews properly, paying attention, one knows the flavor of the food. In the same way, by being mindful of the object, when the object arises, one comes to discern the true nature, the characteristics of Nama and Rupa. In order to discern the characteristics of Nama and Rupa, one does not have to look elsewhere, but it can be discerned by being mindful on oneself. So this can be discerned in oneself, and one will discern mind and matter, cause and effect, and the characteristics of impermanent suffering and non-self by being mindful of the presently arising objects. Nama Rupa has their own characteristics. Nama is called Nama because it inclines onto the object. Rupa is called its name because it alters and changes. These Nama Rupa are also called Dhamma as they bear their own intrinsic nature. In Pali it is called Attano Sabhavan Dharititi Dhammo. As these Nama Rupa bears its own intrinsic nature, Nama Rupa are also called Dhamma. There are many kinds of Nama and Rupa that are called Dhamma. Citta, the mind, has the characteristics of Vijnana Lakkhana. The mind has the characteristic of cognizing the object. No other thing can cognize the object as the citta does. When object strikes on the sixth sense door, the mind takes the object. The mind cognizes the object. So, according to the definition, Sako Bhavo, the unique characteristic of the mind, is cognizing the object. Phassa is the contact. When the object and the consciousness come into contact, it is the phassa, which is coming into contact of the object and the mind. And Vedana has the characteristic of feeling. No other mental factor has this characteristic. When one comes into contact with pleasant objects, there is pleasant feeling. When one comes into contact with unpleasant objects, there is unpleasant feeling. Vedana has the characteristic of feeling, and no other mental factor does have this characteristic. So, bhavati upasadati bhavo, sako bhavo sabhavo, meaning sabhava is the unique individual characteristic, unique individual nature of the Nama Rupa. Among the materiality, Prithvi Dhatu, the earth element, has the nature of hardness, softness. Hardness, softness is the unique characteristic of Prithvi Dhatu. Apo Dhatu has the nature of cohesion, fluidity, congealing, moisture. It is the own unique characteristic of Apo Dhatu. No other element has the characteristic as Apo Dhatu. Tejo Dhatu manifests as warmth, heat, cold. Warmth, heat, cold are the nature of Tejo Dhatu. And Vayo Dhatu manifests as stiffness, tension, movement. Stiffness, tension, and movement are the unique individual nature of Vayo Dhatu. No other element has the nature with no other element has the same nature with Vayo Dhatu. So in this way, Sako Bhavo, Sambhavo, one has one's own unique individual characteristic, and it is called Sambhava, meaning unique individual characteristic. Every Nama Rupa has the beginning and the end. In other way, every Nama Rupa that arises passes away. No Nama Rupa stay the same after arising, but they pass away. As these Nama Rupa arise and pass away, they are no good. They are not the things one should want. These Nama Rupa are bad, so they have this common nature of being bad, and they arise in their own accord. There is no atta, there is no person or being creating the Nama Rupa to arise. There is no creator. Nama and Rupa are arising in its own accord. As these Nama Rupa arise and pass away, they are anicca, impermanent, dukkha, suffering, and anatta, non-self. So Nama Rupa also get the three names anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So when it is said anicca, they are the Nama Rupa. When it is said dukkha, they are the Nama Rupa. When it is said anatta, they are the Nama Rupa. So it is compared to a person who has three names. Just as a person who has three names will be called in these three names, in the same way, Nama Rupa has the three names, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. The Dhammas, the Nama Rupa, arise due to the circumstances. When all the conditions arise, these conditions generate the Nama Rupa. So when all the conditions are met, Nama Rupa arises, and thus Nama Rupa are also called Sankhara, condition, phenomena. Each and every Nama Rupa has its own unique characteristic. Sabhava Lakhana, unique individual characteristics. So each and every Nama Rupa has unique individual characteristics. As these Nama Rupa arise and pass away, it is suffering, as one is constantly tormented by arising and passing away. And as there is no atta in the Nama Rupa, they are non-self. The characteristics of impermanent, suffering, and non-self are common to all nama rupa, and thus they are called samanya lekhana, universal characteristics. So the characteristics of impermanent suffering and non-self, they are the universal characteristics which are common to every nama rupa. So Sayadaw explained it. Heat arises and it passes away. Coldness arises, passes away. So as every object arises and passes away, one is constantly tormented by arising and passing away, and thus it is dukkha, suffering. There is no creator creating the object to arise. There is no creator that is hindering the object not to arise. Every nama rupa has the common manner of anicca lekhana, dukkha lekhana, and anatta lekhana, characteristic of impermanent suffering and non-self. So these characteristics, the three characteristics, characteristic of impermanent, characteristic of suffering, and characteristic of non-self, are called akara, manner. They are the signs of the nama rupa. Just as the human or a person have their own sign, have their own feature, in the same way, the nama rupa has the manner, the feature of anicca lekhana, dukkha lekhana, and anatta lekhana, impermanent suffering, the characteristic of impermanent suffering and non-self. So when an object has a sign or a feature, feature is apart from the object. In the same way, there are the features or the manners of nama rupa, which are the characteristic of impermanent suffering and non-self. So they are the samanya lekhana, universal characteristics which are common to all nama rupa. According to the definition, samano bhavo, sabhavo, bhavatiti bhavo, because they are really existing, they are called bhava. Samana means common. So together it makes samano bhavo, sabhavo. The universal characteristics are called samanya sabhava because they are common to all nama rupa. They have the common characteristic of impermanence as they arise and pass away. They have the common characteristic of suffering as the arising and passing away is constantly tormenting. And there is the universal characteristic, common characteristic of non-self as there is no atta involved. So the two kinds of characteristics, sabhava lekhana, which is unique individual characteristic, samanya lekhana, common characteristic, they are called Dhamma sabhava because they are the characteristics of nama rupa, which are called Dhamma, which are called sankhara. In order to see, in order to discern the unique individual characteristics, in order to discern the common characteristic, one has to contemplate on the object with concentration and closely on the object. Vipassana is called Jhana because it closely, concentratedly contemplates on the object. Combining these two words, it makes up Vipassana Jhana. And Sayadaw will continue to explain tomorrow. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.